Christie, and I'm going to share the legend of the moccasin clipper. Many winters ago, along the Great Lake, lived an Ojibwe maiden who was fond of her older brother. He was the best at everything that a young brave should know. He knew how to mimic the animal calls, how to track them in the forest. He was swift and silent, and he could swim like an otter. And he passed all these skills on to his sister, but he didn't take her with him because the elders in his village singled him out as the one to carry the news from his village to other villages. But he never took his sister with him, even though she knew all the skills that he had, and he taught her them. But one day, an elderly woman in her village became sick, and it wasn't long until several others were ill too, with fever and weakness. And pretty soon, every wigwam in the village was struck. The elders didn't quite know what to do about this. And then they decided, that something should be done. So there was a medicine woman lived across from their village in the bay there. And they decided that this young brave, the messenger, would go over to the village the next day and visit the medicine woman who may be able to offer some help with the people that was sick. But that night, the young man became ill. And now his sister, she decided she was going to be the one to take her brother's place and go across the lake, it was frozen now, and bring the medicine back. So she dressed in her warmest parka, her leggings, her fur-lined moccasins that her mother and grandmothers had sewn, and she struck out. She came to the lake shore, and the wind was raging and the snow was blowing, but she danced lightly across the frozen lake, trying not to hear the ice cracking underneath her feet. And she could see through the blowing snow the fires of the camps of the village across the bay. When she arrived there, she was cold, and they took her in and fed her and warmed her up, and she told them the reason she was there, and they decided that they would send some braves with her in the morning to accompany her back home. And the medicine woman prepared the medicine, and the girl went to sleep. But she awoke when the storm broke, and she thought, I can't wait here, I'm going to go. So she dressed in her dry, warm clothes and slipped down to the lake shore. Well, now the snow was deep and it drifted across the ice, and the wind had blown drifts hard, and every step she took, her feet sank, and she was getting exhausted. And then she remembered her brother telling her about the otter playing in the snow. So she imitated the otter swimming in the snow, and finally, she could see the shadowy outline of her village as the eastern sky became light. But as she walked through the deep snow, her feet sank and she lost her moccasins. Her feet were raw and bleeding, and the drifted, blown snow cut her feet. And every footprint she left drops of blood. When she arrived, she was calling for help from the people in her village, and they came and carried her to her wigwam and warmed her up, and she gave the medicine, and the people recovered. And that spring, when the snow started melting, she and her brother had gone along the lake shore looking for her lost moccasins, and every place where her footprint had left drops of blood, beautiful pink and white flowers grew there. And the Ojibwe people called this flower Makisis in Wabigon, and it means lady slipper. And now these flowers grow today in forested areas, but you can enjoy their beauty, but they are rare and they are protected.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. My name is Ashley and I'm an artist. In this video I will be showing you how you can use crayons to color in the lady slipper flowers in your endangered species coloring book. This lesson follows the lesson of sharing told by Elder Ruth Christie about the brother and the sister and the origin of the lady slipper flowers. The colors you will need are following: green, yellow-green, yellow, violet-red, red-violet, and gray. You can find these in your box of crayons that came with the coloring package. So, I made a fresh version so you can follow along and color with me. The first color I'm going to use is red-violet. That's the darker one. We're going to use this on the bowl of the flower, just shown here. And you're going to color from the top of the bowl about halfway down. Make it nice and scribbly because it's going to look awesome when we're done. But you're not going to go all the way to the bottom. We have to leave that spot empty because these are white flowers. So I'm going to scribble, scribble. And we're also going to do that on the second flower. Same thing. Just like that. Now we're going to take our next color, that's the lighter red, violet red, and we're just going to use it to brighten up the top. You can color right over top of your purple, make it a little more solid, and then we're going to use it to make some speckles in some of the empty space near the bottom, just like that. Same thing on the other flower. And that's your first two colors. Your third color will be yellow, and there's not very much of this one, just a little bit, and it's right in the center, and this is where the pollen of the flowers would be located, and pollen is usually yellow, so we're going to use a nice bright yellow. That's it. Our next color is going to be gray, and we're going to use this to create some shadows on the white flower, because although the flowers are white, any shadowing is going to appear in a grayish tone, so we're going to use the gray crayon. And what I like to do is just make some nice stripes, just like that. And you're going to do that on each of the petals. And I'm also going to put some in here behind the pollen because it would be dark inside the flower. There would be a little shadow in there. And same on the other side, inside the flower. And some nice long stripes. Just like that. Now, we're going to take the darker green and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it in the leaves. So we're going to go all the way from the stem to the tip. Some nice long stripes. And if you press a little firmly, you'll get a nice dark color. Same thing on the other flower. Big stripes. Now make sure to leave some space in between your stripes because we're going to go in with another color. Now for the stem, we're only going to color in the center of the stem. Oh, I broke my crayon. Don't worry, that happens. So we're going to color the center of the stem, leaving some space on the edge for our last color. Don't worry about going outside of the lines. Sometimes I do that too. Now these speckled areas, these are the shadowy areas of the leaf, so we can color in almost the whole area, leaving just a little space for our last color. Because when things are shadowy, they're darker, so we add a little more dark tone in this nice green color. And if you're not as far ahead as me, don't worry, you can always pause the video and catch up. Okay, I think that's good. Now our very last color, the yellow-green. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go right over top of all that green and blend it in. And it gives it a nice springtime fresh color. Right over top of the other green too, because it'll blend it together. Just like that. The underside of the leaf. You can make art with anything. You can make it with crayons, pencil crayons, paint. Doesn't matter. Get in all the spaces, empty spaces, fill them in with the green. And that should leave you with something that looks like this. And you have some other colors in your crayon box, so if you want, feel free to fill in your background on the back of the page, some blue or something nice and bright. Totally up to you. Well, thank you for tuning in. There'll be another lesson soon. Bye-bye.